r/AskReddit. World War III started, and it was McDonald's fault. What did McDonald's do? They stopped serving breakfast at 10:29 AM. This is a possibility. McDonald's has already doubled as many US embassies. I could see some American citizen committing a horrific politically motivated act, then running to the nearest McDonald's to apply for asylum. The manager there has an inflated sense of self-worth and takes it upon himself to protect and smuggle out the terrorist triggering the country to violate protocols at the actual US embassy. The inexperienced trigger-happy Mike Pompeo gives the green light to respond militarily, and all of a sudden we have McDonald's opens a new restaurant next to the Kaaba in an attempt to capitalize on the multi-billion-dollar market of Muslims making the Hajj. They make the unfortunate mistake of serving bacon cheeseburgers. Muslims are outraged, and a Sunni suicide bomber destroys the McDonald's, damaging the Kaaba in the process. The Shia Muslims call on Iran to retaliate, and Iran attempts to capture Mecca from the Saudis, believing that the Saudis aren't fit to rule it anymore. The Saudis are overwhelmed by Iranian forces and call upon the US for help, and the US obliges, but Russia backs their Iranian allies. The conflict escalates, and the majority of NATO allies become involved. Russia makes a deal with China to turn the tide, agreeing to capture the Middle East together and divide its oil reserves between the two nations. Pakistan joins with Russia and China, and India joins with the US and NATO. It's Pakistan who fires off the first nuke in India, but it's not the last. The world is devastated by nuclear warfare in a matter of weeks. Humanity is unable to adapt and becomes extinct. The pigs, however, thrive in the wasteland. That stands as a testament to humanity's folly. They are the new apex species of our planet. It was bacon that was the cause of World War III. How fitting, then, that bacon now rules the world. Impregnate Wendy's while she's dating Burger King. McDonald's begins to hoard beef after an unlikely outbreak of prions occurs simultaneously in US, Brazil, and China. Initial estimates of the outbreak are massively understated due to a mass PR campaign, and the confusion causes panic over eating beef. McDonald's marketing advertises their beef as certified free of prions by Not So Independent and keeps public trust. A continuation of this campaign smears other chains, and McDonald's business goes up. Due to the confusion around the outbreak, it continues to spread through factory recycling of beef parts for cheaper feed. Imported cows from Brazil are initially blamed for the outbreaks. This switches to tainted feed imported from China, then to relaxed legislation of beef farms in the US. Ultimately, the cause remains a mystery, but governments continue to point fingers at each other. As the beef drought continues, McDonald's begins dipping into their stockpiled meats. Unknown to anyone, the beef is infected with prions and begins spreading to humans. McDonald's PR attempts a cover-up and scapegoats local grocery stores that haven't been certified as loving it. This works long enough for McDonald's to internally decide to ship remaining product while testing batches for taint. This hastily implemented process has many flaws and fails. After months of tainted beef rolling out, the conspiracy is uncovered, and McDonald's is virtually destroyed overnight. Mass global protests over lax regulations around food lead to unrest and riots as people continue to contract the disease, which has now made it into the chicken populations. Produce companies take the opportunity to launch PR campaigns blasting everyone they can think of. As fears reach a boiling point, President Trump uses executive powers to launch military action against Brazil, who he claims intentionally infected beef, and send it to the US. North Korea sides with Brazil and begins sending troops to assist. The US declares war on North Korea. China erects a naval blockade around North Korea to prevent them and the US from ever interacting. The EU denounces China's, US, and North Korean actions. North Korea declares war on the EU. The threat is not taken seriously, but they still begin preparing for potential invasion. After several months of chaos in Brazil, a group of Chilean diplomats on their way to unrelated negotiations on the Brazil-Peru border are misidentified by a hastily produced automatic drone strike system. The convoy of diplomats is a target of missile strike. Chile, reacting to Twitter threats by Trump, instigates a spy hunt and uncovers an alarming amount of spies embedded throughout their government. Chile begins to engage in cyber warfare with the US and unintentionally causes an oil pipeline explosion that causes a vast forest fire which kills 237 civilians. The US drops a nuclear bomb on the Chilean capital and declares war. Nuclear powers are drawn into the conflict over the next several months, launching bombing campaigns across the west coast of the US. Several nuclear strikes are narrowly prevented by defense systems. In 2024, the first nuclear bomb falls on US soil, launched by China. This triggers 2 weeks of nuclear genocide across Asia and the Americas. Europe retreats from the war completely, fortunately largely unscathed by nuclear devastation. The Chinese, US, and various South American countries' governments are left almost entirely destroyed and non-functional. And that's how McDonald's nearly ended the world. They fixed the ice cream machine. Szechuan sauces were released en masse, but only in the US. Russia, jealous of it, invades US soil in an attempt to get some Szechuan sauce. China then also invades us because China, and then everything goes to hell when North Korea accidentally nukes itself. They make fucked up. McDonald's buy up and burn so much Amazonian rainforest for cow farming that other nations start to apply pressure on Brazil to put a stop to it. Neighboring countries, fearing the worst, start to unilaterally act to stop the clearances. Local military skirmishes breaks out. The rest BRIC nations as a bloc start to make moves at UN level to side with Brazil. Sanctions and trade embargoes eventually escalates into full-scale world war. The ice cream machine started working again, which drove up the supply of available ice creams and drove down the price overall. Dairy farmers suffer due to the surplus of cheap ice cream and must lower their milk prices to stay competitive. The price of vanilla beans and cocoa beans drops due to low demand, as synthetic artificial flavors are so much more affordable with the new cost of ice cream, and Mexico is hit hard. Cuba offers to grow vanilla and cocoa for cheaper, which starts a bean war between Mexico and Cuba. The United States backs Mexico, and Russia joins in to help Cuba due to a past treaty. Switzerland offers their chocolate, but the prices are too high, which offends the United States and forces Switzerland to unwillingly join Russia and Cuba. Belgium offers their chocolate and support in chocolate making to Mexico. Belgium's decision begins a debate in British Parliament if they'll really go to war over an old treaty, and they decide that they will, effectively joining the US, Mexico and Belgium. Canada agrees to go to war if Britain does, so they also join the US/Mexico/Belgium/Britain alliance. Germany and China are recruited by Russia at the promise of more land and more chocolate. Italy can't decide what side they're on, and changes their mind every time they are asked. France surrenders immediately despite not being involved in the war. McDonald's opens a new restaurant next to the Kaaba in an attempt to capitalize on the multi-billion-dollar market of Muslims making the Hajj. They make the unfortunate mistake of serving bacon cheeseburgers. Muslims are outraged, and a Sunni suicide bomber destroys the McDonald's, damaging the Kaaba in the process. The Shia Muslims call on Iran to retaliate, and Iran attempts to capture Mecca from the Saudis, believing that the Saudis aren't fit to rule it anymore. The Saudis are overwhelmed by Iranian forces and call upon the US for help, and the US obliges, but Russia backs their Iranian allies. The conflict escalates, and the majority of NATO allies become involved. Russia makes a deal with China to turn the tide, agreeing to capture the Middle East together and divide its oil reserves between the two nations. Pakistan joins with Russia and China, and India joins with the US and NATO. It's Pakistan who fires off the first nuke in India, but it's not the last. The world is devastated by nuclear warfare in a matter of weeks. Humanity is unable to adapt and becomes extinct. The pigs, however, thrive in the wasteland. That stands as a testament to humanity's folly. They are the new apex species of our planet. It was bacon that was the cause of World War III. How fitting, then, that bacon now rules the world. The Szechuan sauce comes back, causing none other than Rick and Morty to come through a cartoon portal, and we all know what those guys can do. They get back on their bullshit, and Trump, Putin, and Kim Jong-un do not agree with the rules and standards that come with having a godlike figure in Rick. And well, he causes war. Pretty simple. McDonald's switched exclusively to Beyond Meat burgers. Billions of cows now roam free, grazing and consuming, until they realize they are many. The cows fight for their territory, causing an uprising. Other farm animals join in. It's animal vs man now, and the world will fight until one survives. It is quite simple to imagine a compelling story. A president was in a foreign country to deal with matters related to an espionage charge, but decided to secretly go to a McDonald's because he had heard that there was one of the best burgers of all franchises, and ate a hamburger that in the last night a rat had pissed on its meat, after which he returned to his office as if nothing had happened to after a few minutes attend an important meeting with the president of the country in which he was. Everything went well, there was a banquet, and then he took a plane to return to his home country, but during the flight he died because of leptospirosis, and as the spirits were already fierce because of the espionage accusations, everyone thought it was poisoning by another country and declared war on they. With that, countries came to support the side that interested them, and, with it, the World War III began. The location of the one working McFlurry machine was leaked. All hell broke loose. Thanks for watching UpGoat Reddit. Try like and subscribe button if it still works.